A vote is expected today in the Senate on a bill that would codify Roe v. Wade into law. Senate Democrats ramping up their abortion rights push, concerned the Supreme Court is moving closer to striking down Roe, which would leave the issue to the states. Joining us now is Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill. Julia, good morning. Good to see you. What does this bill aim to do?
Good morning, Rutabaga. Essentially, this bill would allow abortion to take place at the federal level, essentially codifying Roe v. Wade from Capitol Hill. The issue is, Rutabaga, though, that Democrats simply do not have the votes to do this. We know that they need to pass a 60-vote threshold that would involve getting Republicans on board, and that does not seem to be able to happen at this point. However, at the same time, I will say this. This allows Democrats to put Republicans on the record on abortion. We know that there are many Republicans who would rather not be talking about abortion ahead of the midterms. They'd rather be sticking to the party's messaging on crime, inflation, and the border. So this is definitely a bit of a political messaging strategy ahead of November.
And how potent of an issue will this be in the midterms, though, because the economy has such a huge focus on it? A recent poll conducted after the Supreme Court draft opinion leaked shows Republicans still have a 49 to 42% advantage on the generic congressional ballot. So is this going to change the dynamic for Democrats?
That's a good question, Rutabaga. I think Democrats obviously want it to change the dynamic. They want to be able to target women voters in particular, maybe suburban women voters, independent voters in those suburbs who have swung back and forth between Republicans and Democrats in recent elections. However, I think you're going to hear a lot of Republicans arguing that the issue of economy and the inflation that's happening is an issue that's hitting Americans every single day when they go to the gas pump to fill up their cars. When they buy goods and services, for example, they're feeling inflation directly. At the same time, though, I think Democrats and abortion rights advocates would say, look, in states like Texas, like Michigan, and, these states where there's these very restrictive abortion laws on the books that could go into effect in the case that Roe v. Wade is overturned, they would argue that women and families really in those states would feel the impact of Roe v. Wade, and they point to the precedent that this sets. If we start with abortion access being restricted at the state level, what does this mean for women's health going forward? So there's a lot of arguments to come at this issue, come around this issue. But I would say right now, Republicans are trying to be very disciplined with their messaging on the economy.
Oh, we talk about that. Senate minority leader, Mitch McConnell, downplaying talk that the GOP could pass an abortion ban if they take back the Senate. He said, quote, historically, there have been abortion votes on the floor of the Senate. None of them have achieved 60 votes. I think it's safe to say that there aren't 60 votes there at the federal level, no matter who happens to be in the majority. Does that change the debate at all over the legislative response?
It potentially does. I think Mitch McConnell is essentially trying to throw cold water on the idea and responding to criticism from Senate Democrats that Senate Republicans will, in fact, try to come at this issue if they win a majority in the Senate. What you're hearing Senate Democrats say right now is essentially if Republicans regain control of the chamber, this is going to be a top priority for them. And we know that Senate Republicans so far in their campaign messaging have focused on those three issues I mentioned before: crime, inflation, and the economy. They don't necessarily want to be talking about abortion right now, even though we know that the National Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee has been shopping around some messaging points that its candidates can use on abortion going forward. So I think Mitch McConnell is very much, this is the way he responds to those attack lines from Senate Democrats on abortion, and trying to get his caucus and his candidates really back on the messaging track they were on before.
Okay, a lot happening in Washington, Julia. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.